time to wake up. It's Saturday morning. Find some milk and cereal. Grab a bowl and spoon. No, a bigger spoon. Head to the living room and take a seat on the floor while Joseph and Chris present to you Saturday Morning Cartoon!
Hello everybody, welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoon Boom! This is a show where we wake up with a Saturday morning sun, plop down in the living room floor with a big bowl of sugary cereal, and watch all your favorite cartoons, both old and new. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Chris.
And this morning, we watched Totally Spies! Exclamation point.
Oh, thank you so much for that.
I think you have to read it with that inflection. That's the only way.
Yeah.
Like, Totally Spies? Yeah. No.
Yep.
Totally Spies.
Nailed it.
So who suggested this to us?
This was suggested by Funny Sexy Cosplay on Instagram. I suggest only checking them out if you're 18 or older.
I remember them for appreciating me dressed as Spider-Man.
That is true. Yeah, she I think it's a she. She did like you as Spider-Man.
Who knows?
Give you that. Yes.
I'll take either.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Totally Spies, exclamation point, aired from 2001 to 2014. Created by Vincent Chalvon Demercy and David Mitchell, this originated in France and Canada, produced by Marathon Media Group and Image Entertainment Corporation for seasons 3 through 5. It ran for 6 seasons, 156 episodes, and on a bunch of different networks, so bear with me for a second. TF1, Teletoon, Fox Kids, Jetix, Cartoon Network, and Super RTL. A lot of these networks are probably, well, I know a lot of these networks are Canadian and French, so that's why they sound weird and we've never heard of them. And for a short synopsis, Totally Spies is a fast-paced, high-energy, half-hour action comedy show starring Clover, Alex, and Sam, 3 Beverly Hills teens who unwittingly become international secret agents.
That's the thing.
Did we get an origin story at all? It seems like they just kind of jumped us in.
We did not get an origin story.
I wonder if there's an episode that gives you an origin.
Yeah, maybe they do like a prequel episode at some point.
Right, like memories or flashbacks or something.
Because we didn't get to see them unwittingly become spies, as the description tells us.
Yeah, exactly. So I can't validate that portion of it, but they are secret agents.
That much is
true. I can say that.
Totally.
So Chris, who are some of the actresses or actors who played in this?
All right, so the voices of both Sam and Mandy were done by Jennifer Hale, who has had so many voiceover roles in television and in gaming. One of her most notable voices is Commander Shepard from Mass Effect. And I think we've mentioned her on this show before, but I could be wrong. In fact, in 2013, she was named the most prolific video game voice actor by the Guinness Book of World Records.
Dang.
The voice of Clover was Andrea Baker. The voice of Alex was Katie Leigh for a while, and then it was taken over by Katie Griffin, who was the voice of Sailor Mars from the Sailor Moon show. And then the voice of Jerry was originally Jess Harnell, who was the voice of Wacko Warner and Crash Bandicoot before it was taken over by Adrian Truss, who is actually a British guy.
But at first it was false British.
And now it's real British. Or was.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Totally.
For
a few tasty marshmallows out of our big bowl of Totally Spy cereal, WHOOP, the secret organization that the girls work for, stands for World Organization of Human Protection.
Whoop!
Or just whoop.
Or something that, teenage girls say when they're really excited, maybe. I feel like that's where they were going with it.
I guess so.
Whoop! I don't know if teenage girls actually do that. I'm assuming they do.
I mean, based off this, I have to believe that.
Yeah.
Not being a teenage girl, I don't know. Secondly, the show's conception came from the rise of girl band and female singers in the music industry at the time. Wanting to capitalize on the niche, David Mitchell and Vincent Chalvon Demercy put their ideas into development, which later shifted into production within a year. So this had a purpose, and I guess it succeeded at achieving that because it was pretty popular.
Yeah, it really was, honestly. Yeah.
And so much so that, because at first it was trying to be something else. At first, the plan was to eventually create an entire album and establish and promote Totally Spies as a real band.
Oh, really?
But they went a completely different direction with that and pretty much dropped the band portion. We see, kind of a nod to it, I guess, in one of the episodes.
Oh,
but
yeah, you're right.
But then we see that like they are not talented musicians at all, so that's kind of an inside joke.
That's true.
Yeah. So and really the audience was split 50-50, like 50% boys, 50% girls audience ratio, and Screen Rant listed it as among his top 10 girl cartoons that guys secretly love.
I'm not gonna knock it.
Surprisingly, again, this show spawned a movie, 3 video games, some comic books, and a spin-off series, The Amazing Spies.
What? I didn't know any of that. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Did I really just say cow? I'm sorry.
Holy cow.
So there's another series of this.
It's like a family of a few siblings or 4 siblings, I think, together.
Okay.
But the spies from this series do make appearances.
Okay, but are they not like the main characters, but they do show up?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And a movie and comics? Man, that was a lot more than I thought.
Yeah, 3 video games.
3 video games.
And just to tail off of that, I had never heard of this show, period. Like, I didn't know it existed until it was brought up for this.
I may have watched it.
How much did you watch it?
I saw a few episodes here and there. I mean, I didn't watch it religiously, but I've definitely watched it. And I remember thinking it was kind of funny, but I didn't remember anything else about it, honestly.
It seems like for the long runtime that it had and 6 total seasons that I would have heard of it somewhere or maybe run across it on Cartoon Network, but somehow I just avoided it entirely. Not intentionally, it just happened that I never saw this.
Shame.
But let's go ahead and jump into 3 episodes we watched for today's show. Very first episode, highest rated episode, and finally, random listener chosen episode. Order may vary depending on how these episodes fall chronologically, but of course we have to start with the very first episode, being A Thing for Musicians, Season 1, Episode 1, where the spies go undercover as the opening band on overnight pop sensation Ricky Mathis's world tour in order to investigate what's making his fans act so strange.
Oh, so it was the first episode that had the fake band thing. So I wonder if they changed gears after this episode or if they had already decided not to pursue the band thing, but kept this in just for laughs.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they had already decided to change from the band thing. And this was kind of a nod to what would have been or almost was.
Oh, okay. The first thing I want to point out is I love the animation style of this show.
Well, it's very anime.
Yeah, it's still like kind of, I want to say Americanized, but this was like French, wasn't it? I mean, it's France
French Canadian.
and Canada, yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's got a lot of that anime style to it and the expressions and the like really over the top like reaction animation and stuff.
Right. It's kind of like Legend of Korra and Avatar stuff like that. It's a mix between Western, Eastern, not necessarily Eastern culture, but Eastern animation style and some of the, like you say, expressions, but still very Western jokes and dialogue.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have really thought of that if we hadn't done The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra. But yeah, I really like that animation style where it kind of blends both, and this did it really well. I mean, I think it had a lot more of that anime style to it than like Avatar or Korra, but they did it really, really well, and I really enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah, I don't have any gripes about the animation style at all. That worked with what it had, and I think that it actually benefited from using that style versus a regular cartoon style.
Right, and it was very fast paced, which was cool too. There wasn't a lot of moments where it felt like it was dragging on. It was constant like jokes or action or something, just very well paced. I think the jokes were really funny. It was well written. So yeah, and especially like, this episode actually maybe wasn't as good as the other ones, but I mean, this being the first episode, there are a lot of shows where the first one's kind of a little bit more dull because they're trying to find their footing basically, but I think this was still a pretty good episode, actually.
Yeah, I think it's actually good that they didn't go for an origin story explanation right off the bat, just to give you kind of a preview of what the show was going to be. So I am assuming that they did somewhere down the line have a prequel episode. I mean, it would be weird if they didn't, but I can't confirm that 100%, but I'm almost sure that they did at one point. So but with this, so it's Alex, Clover, and Sam, and I'm gonna try to remember I remember them by hair color. Clover is the blonde with wearing red. Alex is the one in yellow, and is she African American or is she like Hispanic? I know she has darker skin.
It's not like, I honestly don't know, but yeah, they made it so she could be any one of like 4 races, honestly.
Yeah, and race is nothing that's really brought up at all. They all coexist, as they should, and so it's actually better that they don't express it, but that is some diversity there, just on the forefront. Yeah. And then
Sam's got like the brownish reddish kind of hair, and she's like almost, like I kind of tried to peg one of them as a leader, and it's really hard to, but I think if one of them is sort of a leader, it's probably Sam.
I think so. She's the most intelligent of the 3, I would say.
Yeah, and I think she's also the one the most level-headed, because Clover is constantly chasing after boys. Not really ditzy, but she gets herself into a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and Alex even to some extent is boy crazy as well, at least in one of the episodes we saw.
And Alex is a lot more timid, whereas Sam's kind of like jump in the mix and, get things done sort of girl. So
yeah, so in this episode we've got a Ricky Martin kind of knockoff, Ricky Mathis.
Right, exactly.
And even though it's not, that again is nothing that's expressed, it's like the way his music sounds like instantly reminded me of some Ricky Martin music. So
yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, it's an obvious kind of nod to that. Like the episode title says, it kind of implies even that Clover has a thing for musicians, and she runs across this long-haired blonde dude. I think they're at school at the time because they all go to Beverly Hills High School, and there's this guy playing guitar, Damon, and she is just initially falls head over heels for him. I guess that's something to explain right up front too, is that the episodes they're kind of split in 2 different ways, where you've got the spy portion and you've got the high school portion, the high school girl portion of it. And so this being the initial time that we see them, like, we don't get any of the spy stuff right off the bat. This is what's going on. She's falling for this guy. And then we get an introduction of pretty much their nemesis throughout, which is Mandy, who is this very high-pitched voice girl, nasally voice. Oh, she's so annoying. Yeah. They're sitting on a bench, and she's trying to figure out a way, Clover is, to get Damon's attention away from Mandy. It's very much like a teen girl kind of cartoon, and then it kind of flips the switch on you when the bench gets kind of pulled in. And that's something else that's kind of weird and funny, I guess, is that no matter where they are, Jerry finds a way to basically pull them into whatever they're near. It's like a secret passage to the spy base. Jerry explains to them that Ricky Mathis's songs have gotten so popular, he's exploded so much that it's almost like unnatural what's happening. And there's something going on in the background, like there's some sort of mind control potentially going on, and he needs them to investigate it. And in doing so, what they have to do is be the cover band, or not the cover band, be the opening band before Ricky Mathis goes on stage.
I knew what kind of show this was going to be when he's giving the briefing and stuff. And then all of a sudden you see like little shadow puppets showing up on the screen, and the camera pans over and Alex is just making shadow puppets the whole time.
Yeah.
And then immediately is like, oh, and then stops and gets all embarrassed. And I'm like, oh man, it's such a good like way to show you what kind of show this is. I thought that was a really funny moment.
What's interesting about it is that, and maybe we'd have to see the intro episode or the origin episode of some sort, because I don't get why they're spies or why they keep them as spies. They seem half the time, at least when it comes to Clover specifically, like they seem really incompetent at their job. Like,
yeah, a lot Clover of it, especially.
Yeah, a lot of it seems like luck when it does work out, and these random gadgets that they get are just kind of gadgets that have one purpose and they just happen to work exactly when they need to.
Right. And the gadgets themselves are kind of jokes a lot because a lot of their gadgets are like very girly associated objects, like a hairdryer that shoots fire, or like their communication devices are, little pocket powder makeup things. So
and like go-go boots that can stick to walls or something.
Right, exactly. So I think in that way, I think that's kind of fun, especially for like any young girls that are watching this. They probably really enjoy that, and I think it's kind of funny. It's a very like tongue-in-cheek kind of thing.
Yeah, it's the weird kind of spy stuff. Like I guess it would be. I know it's like British spy kind of stuff where it's like Austin Powers, where the women are always dressed in like skin tight spandex, I guess.
Yeah.
I know I'm sure there's an actual word for that, or there's something, a typical thing, or a specific thing that it is, but I'm not familiar enough with it to know.
It's almost like they're all wearing jumpsuits of some kind.
Yeah, colored jumpsuits, and they're very bright, so stealth is definitely not an option for them.
Right, not at all, not even close.
So what happens in this one is, just to fold it out a little bit more, the tour manager for Ricky Mathis, I keep wanting to call him Ricky Martin, the tour manager is, he's the one that we quickly see is up to no good, and Ricky Mathis, even though he is a part of it, is... he truly is unwittingly a part of it, because he doesn't know that these songs are being put on these like glowing CDs of some sort that send out some subliminal messages or something that controls his audience.
Right,
he goes out singing those, and we see the crowd just like, you're Ricky and you're our master, or you're my master. So we're getting to witness it all. It's going over his head. The girls are kind of seeing it, but at the same time, I think Clover gets mind controlled by this as well, so she's completely...
Well, it's because she's an idiot, and like she sees him perform live, and she like falls in love with the guy, and immediately goes and listens to his CDs, knowing that there's something wrong going with them, but she's already obsessed. She listens to it anyway and gets brainwashed with everybody else because it's Clover.
The spies get trapped, or the two spies who are still competent are trapped in a glass room, a soundproof booth. And so because they're so bad at music, and this was kind of funny, because they're so bad at music, and we see earlier a little foreshadowing of this, that when they are playing, it's like shattering glass around them. And so to get out of this, they do the same thing. They just play very bad music very loudly, and it shatters the glass so that they can escape. They're going through trying to find the tour manager and, stop him, because it's pretty much on the edge of, if he succeeds in doing this, he's going to be broadcasting it all over the world and take control of everyone, because we get to see the actual villain come out, Sebastian, who has like a claw hand and stuff, and he looks like a supervillain. Like he looks like one of those typical supervillains.
He's like a crazy James Bond villain reject.
Exactly, yeah.
Honestly, which I'm sure is what they were going for. It's it's more like, if you remember that cartoon called James Bond Jr.
Oh yeah.
And some of those villains were like in that kind of Bond style, but way more over the top.
Oh yeah.
As far as what they look like, this is that guy. He was definitely like, would have fit in with those.
Yeah, and so he's trying to take over the world through hypnosis. Sam, being the intelligent, the most intelligent one, she is actively trying to stop this. At some point, Ricky is pulled to the side and stopped from doing the music, and so the group, the tour manager and Sebastian, try to start the music without him, or do start it without him, and then using a laser hairdryer that she has on hand, she reverses the signal. So instead of hitting the satellite, it hits the helicopter that Sebastian and the tour manager are in. What's funny about this is it makes them completely slaves to Ricky Mathis, and it's basically the vicious criminals are trying to force him to give them an autograph or something. So it's a fun wrap up to that episode.
I think in the end, we're all slaves to Ricky Mathis.
Oh, if he was real? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the second episode we watched for today's show was I Want My Mummy, Season 2, Episode 2. And I think this was
chosen by Funny Sexy Cosplay.
I wish they had a name so we didn't have to say that every time.
I think her name is Becka.
Becka. We'll assume that
I
and
just
blame
don't know for
you
sure.
if it's wrong.
Okay.
So Becka. Becca's
Yeah, if it's not, I'm sorry.
So in this one, the spies travel to Egypt to investigate strange occurrences at a pyramid. They unravel an evil archaeologist plot to resurrect an ancient Egyptian curse that would give the man eternal power, as well as the ability to summon mummies as his minions.
First of all, the animation, because this is in season 2, the animation looks much cleaner, and some of those voices have changed. And you can kind of tell because some of the voices are much like more crisper, and they just, I don't know, the whole show itself seems a lot more refined.
This one kind of opens, we see, well, it's in Egypt. There's a golden scarab that's in a tomb.
They open it, and then this one guy disappears.
Oh, right. The professor disappears. Yeah. And that's what starts off the mystery.
Right. And so then the spies are supposed to basically go find out what happened and recover this scarab thing.
I'll be honest, this episode had me fooled for a little while, and then I felt dumb for being fooled. But then it kind of made me feel better about the show. But I'll get to it in a second. But
okay.
So we come back to the high school portion where they're talking about this most charitable teen contest and how Mandy is the winner because she's donating a golden ring of some sort when I think it was Clover who wanted to donate a mood ring. And since the golden ring with some kind of diamond in it was
like
more
a ruby.
expensive, right? A ruby in it was more expensive, then she's considered the most charitable teen. So this is the subplot, I guess, to where we know that's going on and that's a portion of the episode. That's the teen girl portion of the episode.
What I like about that is when Clover gets really angry when she finds out that Mandy was going to win. They do the over-the-top anime kind of reaction where she gets mad and picks up a car and she's going to like smash Mandy with a car.
Yeah. The
they're
extreme.
like, stop.
Right.
Yeah. I love that. It was so good.
It goes over after that to them playing soccer on the field. Mandy drops her ring on the ground accidentally. Clover picks it up. And before she's able to do anything about that, they're pulled into, and this is part of the Jerry pulling them into the spy base from anywhere. They get the equipment shed on the field starts moving closer and closer to them. And when they get there, he's like, right on schedule, right? You get it? Right on schedule? And like, yes, we get it.
Dad jokes.
Dad jokes, exactly. And he explains that this professor has vanished, and there was an assistant mumbling about a curse. And then we find out here also that Alex still believes in the Easter Bunny. And one of the gadgets was, because it's usually like 3 gadgets every time for every episode, 3 unique gadgets. And I'm sure they reuse some in certain episodes, but the ones we all saw were unique. So this one was Tornado in a Can hairspray. And then the Turbo Shovel 2.0.
I like the Turbo Shovel, honestly. That one becomes pretty handy a couple times.
Surprisingly, yeah.
For Clover in particular.
They travel to Egypt, and this is where Alex, like we get to meet this assistant, and already this assistant seems like a real shady guy. Like, if it was a Scooby-Doo episode, I'd be like, this is a guy. And that's what I was thinking at first, was like, this is the guy.
Is that how you got fooled?
That's how I got fooled because I didn't know that they were going to be clever about it at all. I thought it was going to be very straightforward. Yeah. And so I was like, well, this is your guy. Why does everyone trust him? Like, come on, he's clearly the guy.
Yeah.
So
I've got
this. Yeah, I've got this chip on my shoulder the whole time, thinking like, come on, just stop, like letting him come with you. He's gonna fool you in the end, and he did, but in a different way. So Alex falls for him.
Oh, and his name is Ian, and we should mention he's dressed like Indiana Jones like the whole time.
Oh, yeah, true. I think there's a lot of like nods to different pop culture things or historical things in this series.
There's a lot of Indiana Jones in this episode in particular.
Oh, yeah, true.
Like a pit of snakes, and then Temple of the Moon, kind of like Temple of Doom. A lot of references.
They need to find the second scarab of Isis. I guess there's 3 scarabs total that they need to bring together to have immortality. And in trying to find one of them, that's when the professor disappeared or, fell into a trap or something. Because it's kind of common knowledge that these Egyptian temples or pyramids are often booby-trapped in some ways. At least, I say common knowledge, but it's from the pop culture stuff that I've seen, like movies and TV, I expect pyramids to be booby-trapped. Booby. In searching the tomb for some booby traps to see if they can find the professor, they find a cufflink with an Oxford seal on it, and that's when they start to suspect Ian, or at least they ask Ian about it because, he's one of those nicely dressed guys at first too. I think before he gets the Indiana Jones gear, he's wearing like a school jacket and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, he's all nice looking, and that's why Alex falls for him. And I kind of remember when he's dressed all nice, he walks out of the room at some point into a bunch of light, and there's just kind of this pause, and they're like, where'd he go?
I think Clover brings out the Turbo Shovel 2.0. Just trying to, not really knowing what it does. And I think they even mentioned something about that. You don't even know how it works. And she's trying to dig something out or, dig some holes in the temple. And it just goes off on its own. It's an automated shovel and it's going crazy. It just bounces away.
And that happens a couple times, but towards the end that kind of saves them, which is really funny.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. They luck out in a lot of cases. They would have been, I'll get to it.
Yeah.
So eventually, Alex and Ian fall through a tunnel, and they find also some axle grease in a tunnel, which is okay, so that's a clue because obviously there wasn't axle grease in ancient Egypt, so this is a more modern thing.
Yeah,
some of these traps. There. Yeah. We eventually find, and this is where I was like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. Now I feel dumb. That Professor Elliot has staged his own disappearance, wraps everyone up, and I didn't suspect it at all for some reason until I see Ian wrapped up as a mummy too, and I'm like, oh, yeah. Duh. And so geniusly, he, even fooling us, he staged his own disappearance because he's going for immortality, which makes sense because he's the older person and he's coming closer to the end of his life. So he's trying to find that immortality and power and actually succeeds at it, at least for the time being.
And yeah, he ends up with all the scarab pieces and he puts it in this, I don't know what you would call it. It's like a hieroglyph thing carved into a statue, and it activates and starts it fills his body full of this power. And so not only does he become immortal, all of a sudden he's summoning this giant horde of mummies to come after them.
For as resourceful as these girls are, sometimes they're very airheaded, just very Beverly Hills girls. Even though they're secretly spies, that still carries over into their spy work.
Which is a lot of the fun of the show, for sure.
Yeah, so it kind of blends both of those, I guess, as well as you can, given the circumstances. It's still a weird mixture to me. But, it worked for what it was.
So they got to battle some mummies.
Which is always fun.
Well, maybe not. Mummies are just zombies with tape.
At least you can get rid of them by just unraveling them. Or at least that's what I assume.
Yeah. Or maybe you could probably light them on fire.
Yeah, check it out. Let me know. Report back.
Sure.
He's soon going to be invincible. He's got this bubble of power around him while they're fighting mummies. The only way to stop this is for them to detach the 3 scarabs from one another because they've all formed sort of a triangle in a very Triforce-like manner, and trying to pull them apart, just unsuccessfully. They pull them off the wall, but they're still all together, so it's not working. It's not, it's not releasing the power from him. So all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Turbo Shovel 2.0 appears and ends up being the hero of the episode because it basically homes right to the And maybe this was the intention all the time. I don't know. But it comes right to the scarabs and just busts them apart.
Yeah. So the guy loses all of his magic. And then they made a giant, like, almost like a giant rubber bandish kind of ball out of the mummies.
Yeah.
Which I thought was great.
Is it right here that we find out that the ring, Mandy's ruby ring, was also fake?
Yeah.
That's kind of a good way to tie in the teenage high school part of it with this one and bring it kind of as a wraparound to where Mandy doesn't end up winning the Most Charitable Teen Award because of her fake ring. And it's instant, too. It's not even like they don't question it. They're just like, well, Mandy doesn't win, so Arnold wins with his fungus.
Yeah,
so
he donated his exotic fungus collection.
Right.
So Clover ended up not even winning anyway.
And the girls succeed at solving this mystery. And I don't know if Ian ever comes back into play. So he and Alex never get anything. So I don't know.
Poor Alex.
Seems like, I know, it seems like there's a lot of that going on in this show where the girls will fall for someone and then next episode they're just gone. So.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, that's very James Bond.
That's true. It's the spy life, I guess.
Yeah,
exactly.
life of a spy.
Makes sense.
Love them and leave them. That's what I always say.
Is that what you always say?
No. My girlfriend would punch me.
Typical Chris. So the third and final episode we watched for today's show was Totally Dunzo Part 2. And this is Season 5, Episode 26. This was the highest rated episode. With the help of a special device, the spy manages to destroy the evil of the world. However, it will not work with robots. Well, that's a poorly written description.
That sounds terrible. And I'm not even sure that describes it very well.
I don't know. Well, we'll explain it better.
Yeah. So it was the highest rated, and this was the second part of a two-parter.
Mm-hmm. And I did not watch the first part. Did you?
I didn't, but they kind of summed it up a little bit at the beginning where it looks like that something has happened and Whoop was shutting down.
Whoop.
The girls were retiring from spy life and Jerry himself retired.
Well, because he sold the company.
But then something happened and he disappeared. And then the girls are worried and trying to find him. And all of a sudden, like, these robots started like taking control of everything.
Because we see or we hear in this intro part that Jerry had spoken with Mr. X and sold Whoop headquarters to that person, planning on retiring, and the same with the girls, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And then that's when these robots who were meant to be, I guess, protection and safety start to go AWOL, or not even AWOL. It is apparent that Mr. X is up to no good.
Also, like something the robots did that turned people evil, or like turned good people evil, or something like that.
Well, I think that was a device that Jerry had did that. Yeah, or it was like a spillover.
And so I thought, because for whatever reason, and it didn't really get explained in this episode, Mandy is trying to help the girls and is like trying to be nice and keeps referring to them as her friends, and it's weirding them out. So my thought was, whatever turned the good people evil maybe had the opposite effect on her and turned her good. However, once things are all said and done, she does not go back to being evil. So I'm not really sure what happened with her.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what happened with Mandy. I'm pretty sure this was under her own accord that she decided to be nice to them and, I don't know, be heroic or something, because I remember kind of the explanation where they were saying that Mandy decided she wanted to, help us instead of be against us this whole time, or she had a change of heart or something. So I don't know that it was caused by any device. At its core, though, or at the core of this whole episode, really, is Jerry was making a device to basically expunge evil from the world.
The opposite happened.
And that's kind of the center point of this, and we get to see the repercussions of it. Yeah. And these robots are like these octo kind of robots where they have multiple, they don't have 8 arms, but they have like 4 or 5 tentacle arms, and they float overhead and are just they're called collection droids or something. And that's kind of literally what they're doing, is just grabbing things to bring to Mr. X or bring back to their headquarters.
And so basically the girls are trying to find out what happened to Jerry. That's like their primary goal starting out. So they go to, I don't know if it was supposed to be his house or if it was like supposed to be a safe house for him. Because, I mean, the house doesn't look like something Jerry would live in. But they go there to look for him and they find like a big hole in the wall. And turns out it was one of the robots had abducted him because all of a sudden they're getting attacked by this robot. And what I thought was kind of funny is like it grabs Mandy. So Mandy is with them but does not know that they're spies.
Oh yeah, she still has no idea.
Yeah, has no idea at all. It snatches Mandy, but the girls just kind of let it take her. Because they're by like their philosophy, they're like, oh, it'll lead us back to wherever it's taking these people. So they just let it steal Mandy away. And Mandy's like screaming at it and like, you know, not screaming for help. She's yelling at the robot, which is really funny. So they like
in her extremely nasally voice.
Yeah. So they're like trying to follow it back. I can't remember if they lost it and just ended up at this place or if they followed it back, but they end up at Jerry's mother's house.
Yeah, they're walking around like looking for trying to find Jerry and trying to find Mandy, and they did lose it because they're like, well, it kind of led to this area but we're not sure where. And then one of them recognized the house. They were like, we've been here before, like where is this? And then they were like, oh wait, this is Jerry's mom's house. And or maybe they'd only seen it in pictures or something, I can't remember, but right. They come in and that's when they go to the basement first and they find Jerry. They go to the basement.
Mandy and a bunch of the other old Whoop operatives and stuff.
At this point, I'm kind of on to what's going on. And so the reveal isn't really a surprise to me, but I guess the technicalities behind it were kind of still not what I expected.
Yeah,
but
same
overall,
here.
Yeah, so what happens is, and you probably have guessed it by now if you're listening to this, so since they're at Jerry's mom's house and all the people are tied up at Jerry's mom's house, guess who Mr. X was? It was Jerry's mom.
I was going to say it was Jerry's mom's house. Oh, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Because she starts kind of, not going crazy, but it's revealed that she's very evil. And
she used to be a spy as well.
They show a quick little flashback and his mom was kind of a kick-ass spy back in her day, just like the girls were, except she was probably much better at it than the girls were. From the looks of things.
Yes, she seemed really on point, and she was working alone too, so she was obviously much more competent than the three girls trying to work together and still pretty much failing every episode. We hear what's going on with Jerry's mom. We kind of get to hear a reveal from Jerry where he's like, I think that the villain gene from my device had leaked over and is affecting my mom.
Right.
Like she basically caught the villain gene.
Yeah.
Since that's a thing.
It is a thing. Who would have thought?
Jerry's device, I believe, gets used again, and it's on a small scale here because there's only so much power left in it. The one that kind of takes away villainous intentions or the villain gene.
Oh, right, yeah.
And so it cures his mom back, and so she, being back to normal, she starts destroying the robots with a frying pan that are kind of guarding the area.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And she reveals behind, I think, one of the paintings on her wall that she has some jetpacks that she gives to the girls to start, but they're like old school jetpacks. So she's like, no, you have to crank start them. So they had to like wind up the jetpacks for them to blast off. They're chasing after the robots and trying to stop them. They're defeating the robots, or they're trying to defeat the robots. And one of them takes one of the girls down into the water. Everybody else is like, oh no, like she's going to drown. She can only breathe for so long.
Right.
And when she comes back up, like she's tied the robot down with an anchor and was victorious. They are able to also use Jerry's device to its fullest that's what they do. They plug Jerry's device into one of the robots because the robots use one of the droids because the droids use nuclear power, fusion core centers. Right. And so that is enough power to spread for that device to basically be powered up and spread to the entire world, I guess. So it's taking the villain gene away. And this also gives them a perfect opportunity to retire with no reservations because, basically villainy is gone thanks to Jerry's device.
So they kind of have like okay, we really can retire now sort of thing where they tell like Jerry goodbye and stuff and the girls are getting in the car. And it's at this point that Mandy finally figures out that they're spies. And she gets so angry because it also turns out, and they reveal that like they've been erasing Mandy's memory for years.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently Mandy keeps finding out and then they erase her memory. She gets super angry, but they like strap her to a rocket and just fire her away.
Yeah, I thought that was really weird that they did that, but I guess hopefully they know it's not going to just crash into the ground or something and kill her.
Mandy's
but who knows?
dead. She's dead.
Yeah, probably.
She never comes back.
I wonder if this was intended to be the final episode because it seems like it would have been a good send-off. Honestly, I can't see how they would have continued after this, but they do for another season.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, this seems like the end of the series, but there's a whole nother season. So, I don't know. But then at the end, they have what they call majorly emotional group hug.
Yeah,
where they all hug, and then the girls drive off into the sunset. Like heroes.
Yeah, they all hug, they all cry, and then they drive off into the sunset like heroes. So it's a great send-off, and I think that would have been perfect way to end it, and I wish it had ended there. I don't know if the 6th season's any good, so maybe it is. Maybe they explain that, but I don't know. Just seems like it should have stopped here.
I can agree with that.
Well, Chris, looks like it's about time we squeeze into our tightest spandex Whoop uniforms and unravel the mystery of what our inner kids thought of Totally Spies.
Okay, so 3 super hot high school girls are also kicking sexy spy girls? It's like somebody made a cartoon out of all my hopes and dreams. I gave this cartoon 4.5 bowls of Totally cereal out of 5. And now, I'm going to try my luck asking Clover on a date since she seems to hook up with everybody. Bye.
Even though my older self didn't really express it much, unfortunately, I didn't find much to like about this show. While it was great to see a cartoon led by 3 female characters, it didn't really seem like it was very empowering to young women at all. While they had their moments of strength, intelligence, and cunning, it seemed like the formulaic episodes were primarily resolved by a combination of Jerry's extremely specific gadgets and a great deal of luck, making the male character the real brains of the operation. It kind of surprised me that this show not only went on for as long as it did, but also that it had a movie and the spin-off series. What the heck? How? What is life? Ugh. I'm gonna have to give this show 2.5 big bowls of, whatever cereal out of 5. If superficial boy-crazy teenage spies and Mandy's extremely annoying nasally voice are your thing, then this show may totally be up your alley.
Wow.
I mean, Little Me's not wrong, but at least this show was, Nah, I got nothing. I don't know.
For the first time ever, I rated a show really high and you rated it really low.
This was kind of the reverse of Gravedale High.
This is the reverse of almost like the last several episodes.
Well, true. I mean, usually I find something that that'll really engage me about a show and I'll really like it for some reason, or I'll find something to like about it. But this one it started to annoy me with the constant high school girl talking, like just that vernacular. And then it's like they're unwitting heroes, I guess, but it doesn't even seem like they know what they're doing half the time. Like they're very, maybe that's part of the charm of the show. I don't know. Like maybe I feel like I'm in the minority though, because it seems like this is a very popular show, but I didn't like it that much. I dreaded, that's why I didn't watch the first part of the last episode, because I didn't want to. Like I was like, no, I can't handle any more than this.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I actually really enjoyed this show. Like I felt like it was kind of a mix of like Charlie's Angels and Sailor Moon, which is probably why I really liked it. I mean, the characters are really quirky. The animation was really good. Used a lot of the really cool anime tropes that I love. The big thing for me was just that it was really witty and it was really fast paced. And to me, it felt like the episodes were really short because how fast I felt like it went. It probably did the opposite for you because you're like, ugh. But honestly, I would consider watching more of this show. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think this is going to be my first and last time to watch this show with any luck.
Right.
But not that I don't want to dissuade anybody from checking it out. Like, check out the first episode, see how you feel about it. If it bothers you, then you're in my boat and stop watching it. If it doesn't, great, continue.
There you go.
But I can't reinforce this show, but since you like it, there's something to like about it. And I respect that. So, like I said, don't listen to me. Check it out for yourself.
It's so funny. It's a complete role reversal. Usually I'm just shitting all over the show.
Actually, I didn't know what to expect from this either, because I was like, I feel like I'm rating it pretty low. I bet Chris, since he said he had seen it before, I wonder if he really liked it.
Right.
So that's interesting. Oh, also, before we go, I wanted to mention real quick that, and this actually relates a lot to our show. As far as Nerdist.com is concerned, I saw on there that the Funko Pop figures are bringing back 90s Nicktoons with some of their new release pops. I know they're not out yet, and I don't know when they're going to be released exactly, but soon we'll get to see some of the Ah Real Monsters, Rugrats, Cat Dog, things like that. And I think that's just awesome. I'm excited about the Ah Real Monsters specifically.
That's really awesome. Yeah, it's going to be so cool to see those.
Yeah, because you've got Ickis, Crumb, and Oblina. I think if I just get those three, I'll be happy. Anything else, I'll check out and I'll see if it's worth it.
I also saw Chucky from Rugrats listed, which was really cool.
Yeah, Chucky was on there. Tommy's on there. So I'm pretty sure they'll have Angelica and stuff too.
Angelica.
I think all that we have so far information-wise that it's coming in 2017, but who knows when. So just keep an eye out. If you see them before we do, please tell me, because I want to know and I want them.
Nice.
Well, listeners, looks like our milk supply is now run dry, so it's time for us to say goodbye. Next week, we'll be watching
Mutant League, in honor of the Super Bowl or Sports Bowl or whatever that thing is. The sports thing.
Sports Ball.
Sports balls.
So Mutant League, awesome. I do remember watching that show, so I'm excited to watch it again.
Yeah, me too.
Before we head out, thanks, Becca, for recommending this show to us. Even though I didn't care for it, Chris loved it, so at least there's that.
Thanks, possibly, Becca.
Yeah. Once again, I'm Joseph.
And I'm Chris.
We'll see you next Saturday.
Presented by Nerdsloth.
A place for lazy nerds.
If you like what you heard, consider donating at patreon.com/nerdsloth so we can continue bringing you quality shows. Be sure to also leave us a review and share your favorite episodes and clips on social media. If you're looking for more content, visit us at nerdsloth.com.